So we're going to call the meeting to order then. So ready for the roll call? Member Brown.
Here.
The other airlines implicated are
Fox.
Air India,
Here.
Israel's
Lady. Mitchell.
saying in part, a flight cancellation
Member Nordquist. Here.
or waiting months to get your refund. It has been a challenging year for airlines. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, domestic carriers have posted the lowest number of on-time flights and the highest
Right.
in 8 years. Cancellations are running at the highest rate in a decade.
Present. We don't have a quorum, but again, there will be no voting items for tonight.
Do I need to record as being present?
So I'm going to do a motion to adopt the agenda then. We're still going to do motions. Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Adopt the agenda as printed.
Second.
Is there any discussion related to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Is that something, is that an action we can take for that forum? I didn't think so. We're going to skip that. So then we're up to communications. The director's report. It would be the chair. Would you have anything? Do I have anything to report? I do not. Our director's report.
Question. Is member Northwich the acting chair or is it?
Yes, right before you arrived, he was elected among.
Congratulations.
Hi, first of all, thank you all for attending tonight. Phil Mann is not here, so I will be going over the director's report with each and every one of you in his absence. A couple things that we wanted to let you know is that we did receive 2 applications for the GCRA membership. So we are pending the submission to City Commission. So hopefully we might come back with some new members of our board here shortly. So we'll keep you posted. We do have 4 available positions for anyone that their term is up. We are now, I think we discussed it last time where we needed to wait a term. And then once that month was over that they could reapply. So yes, we can reapply. So please check with David if you are unsure where you are at in your term. But if you are able to apply, we highly encourage you. We enjoy and value our time with you very, very much. So, but we do have 2 applicants. So hopefully that will come back in the December meeting with, you know, some new members to our board, which would be great. One of the things that we might want to discuss is December 20th is our next meeting. And so we might want to kind of discuss amongst the group if it's something where we want to cancel that meeting. That is something we've typically done when it's close to the holidays, and or potentially look for dates to move it up earlier in December. But that's something that you may want to discuss. I just wanted to sort of put that out there. Also, a quick reminder, December 7th is coming up and it is our ethics training session. You will see a letter hopefully in front of you that is from the Mayor Poe asking everyone to attend. It'll be at 9 a.m. at City Hall Auditorium on December 7th. Please let David know if you're not able to attend, but we hope to see you. This is something that we do every year with all of our boards, and even the GCRA team will be there in attendance as well. Just a quick update on the East Side Health and Economic Development Initiative, or EHEDI. The roadway plan development task assignments that we were talked about last time with CHW has been issued, and a second task assignment to perform the environmental assessment and process is being issued with CHW. So hopefully here in the next month or 2, we'll be able to come back and really talk about the master planning efforts, the environmental and the wetland studies, and we can start talking about what things can actually be put onto the site. And that's the site that we talked about where it's UF's property all the way through GTEC and what opportunities come out of it. So just wanted to give you some follow-up to that because we did mention it last time we were together. Also, the Community Partnership Grant Program is accepting applications to December 1st. So we did put a copy of that out if you would like to take that or let anyone know. This is for planned events between April 1st and September 30th. And as a reminder, events do need to be within the GCRA boundary, and it can assist non-for-profit organizations and events, as well as arts, cultural initiatives, COVID-19 recovery, resiliency, cultural celebrations, neighborhood improvements, racial healing and justice, or potentially other categories, as long as it's in line with our city goals and the GCRA boundary. So we wanted to put that out there. If you know of anyone, please share. And we're also going to be communicating that because December, the deadline will be coming up here shortly. And then circling back, we also wanted to provide an update on the board's recommendations to change the business improvement grant program. It was approved by City Commission, and just as a reminder from our last meeting, this does allow tenants in city-owned buildings to apply for the business grant program. And so we kind of talked through that. That was one of the examples last month, but that did get approved. So there was those minor changes. And a small update on the hiring. We do have interviews in process for both the director's position and also the GCRA project manager position. And so hopefully we'll be able to come back and let you know sort of where that's at, but it's in the interview stages, just so you're aware. And then I'm here to answer any questions. Yeah.
Curious, what's the starting pay on those positions you're hiring?
I don't have that in front of me, but all of the HR positions citywide are posted on the website. And so the website gives a range at the starting range. And then there's, I believe, 4 different quadrants that somebody could fall in, but that goes through HR and class and compensation. So I don't have the ranges in front of me, but every single job the city has is listed on the city's website.
What's the status of the economic development?
So with sort of the revision of our work going into transformational projects, the city manager and leadership, instead of having 3 manager positions, they now have 1 manager position. We do have a potential for one of the other manager positions. Originally, we had talked about an economic development manager that sort of shifted in our reorg, and that was done, I want to say 4 months ago. I don't have it in front of me, but there will not be an economic development manager position per se. So the only position that needs to be filled at the GCRA is the director position at this time. And then with housing, there is a project manager 1 through 4 position, and both of those have been posted. The applicants have gone through HR and they are in the middle of the interview process.
So to follow up, what I would like to understand is why the shift. When we were looking at the necessity of it, what has happened to the necessity of having an economic development person on staff?
I believe, and I can get you more specifics as the reasoning behind it. I don't have that in front of me, but what I can share is I think one of the thoughts, for instance, with housing is that there were 2 positions that were with the GCRA, but making it more approachable where the work that is being done with the programs could be housed with housing and all of their programs. So for instance, if a neighbor wanted to know they didn't have to go to the GCRA office for just the GCRA items, it's more effective and efficient to go to housing that would have all of the programs. So I think a lot of it was being effective and efficient in our work. And some of our work, there's more of a one city approach going on, and it's a lot more collaborative under the new leadership. And so I think some of those decisions, which I can't speak to all of them, but I think the majority of those decisions is really kind of taking departments out of silos and having everyone support each other a little differently. And my best example would be how our relationship with the GCRA, our programs, the suite of programs that we have, the 5, and how we work collaboratively with Corey, as you can see, is here in housing. I think it's not really a shift or why we don't need it. It's more how we're identifying what needs to be done and what resources we already have and how to work together collectively as one city.
My only pushback is that economic development was number one when we did our discussions with people in the community, and affordable housing was more or less number two with community stuff. So I like what I'm seeing happening with the collaboration and the kind of the networking and unifying of a housing department. But if we're going to do that with those concerns as it relates to our business as DCRA, that same energy should be given to economic development.
One of the things that I'm not ready to bring everything back to you today, but I am actively working on with the team and leadership is to start having those discussions. You know, this is our 10-year work plan. We have 6 years left.
Yes.
Let's have a conversation regarding economic development and housing and streetscapes and where we're at. We are actively pursuing communications with leadership and how to bring that forward, not only to our advisory board, but also to the city and the county commission. That is sort of life's coming attraction. So you're spot on and your questions are very important and relevant to what we're hoping to bring forward to you. So I think that will help answer where we're at, what's going on, where's the funding, all those questions that are kind of, hey, it's going to be 2023. Where's our status and how are we going to get it done? That's what we're working on.
Okay. I want to follow it on what Jason was asking. Now, since housing is a major part of our program, and we now have a master of ceremonies for housing, I think maybe at a future meeting, one with better attendance, that we can ask Mr. Harris to explain concepts like inclusionary zoning, exclusionary zoning, mixed income housing, food desert, all these issues that revolve around our housing pattern and trying to get more affordable housing. You know, I agree with putting that stuff in a single unit, all the housing going through one place, but we should get some education from that leader.
I won't speak for Mr. Harris, but I do know that he is well informed and has been doing quite a bit of community engagement around it. And I would think that he would be more than happy to come forward. And Corey, you can speak to anything at this time if you like.
Not to take over the meeting, but yeah, I welcome the opportunity to share any of those topics that we can definitely coordinate that. If you want to, you know, buffet of topics, we can do that. Or if you want to, you know, just let me know which topics that you want us to focus on. We can definitely focus on, you know, a different topic at a time. If you want to talk about food deserts, how's that's defined, or inclusionary zoning or exclusionary zoning, we can talk about.
You know the priorities and our opportunities, so I think we know how to. I said future meeting just because our attendance is so unimpressive today. We want more members to be exposed.
And just as a reminder, as we do this one city and partnership approach, every meeting we do have put in that we would bring housing forward. They're here in attendance, but also to give an update. So we will have housing updates on the active programs that we do have. And then absolutely, if there's ever any topics or ideas that you would like more information on, you know, we can build that. Please let David know. And we can absolutely, you know, work collectively as a team. We meet every Friday and work towards that for you.
Anything else? Very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there anything else under communication? The end of it, I'll have a report. On the consent agenda, I assume we're going to pass on that because we can't take action on it. Are we going to hear on that? What?
It's up to you. Again, this is more information.
Information.
And in reality, it should have not been there. It should have been as a discussion. And so I'm happy to briefly discuss it if you wish. We can move forward with the agenda as it is.
Who would like to hear the discussion? You would like to hear the discussion or? Okay. Any objection? Okay. So. There. Is that being seen?
We need to share it and open it.
There. So before you, this is what constitutes the proposed second amendment to the rules. Back in late summer, we brought this to you as a first amendment to these rules. What we came across afterwards was that, unbeknownst to us, in June 16, on second reading, the city commission approved or amended rather the board ordinance and made significant changes. So what we have attempted to do, and these changes that you see have now been vetted by the city attorney, and these would be going on consent to city commission as just procedural more than anything else. But it basically follows the amended ordinance from June 16, 2022. Among some of the things, as you can see in paragraph 3, right here, in the past, if you look on the crossed out line, overall attendance record is less than 50% of the 6 most recent board meetings at which voting occurred. So that meant that at 50%, meaning 3 out of 6, you would be warned. But more, the member would be. Now, that has changed to 3 of the 6 most recent board meetings. So the 50%, it's now 3 strikes, you're out. And I offered this for you folks for the board to be aware of this rule, and so you know, those are some of the changes. And in fact, in speaking with, before the meeting started, with member Nordquist about, can you reapply to be a board member following the end of your term? So the question was, actually, it wasn't clear in the previous one because it talked about first round. You see here, however, a member who has served 2 full terms may reapply a reappointment during second advertising cycle. Well, what was that? So now, to the extent possible, each member, so bottom line, this was removed. So in essence, yes. What is a first round or first application round? Usually these applications are posted on September 1st. They run for 30 days. And in October, there should be an appointment by the city commission. Well, in our case, that did not happen. We did advertise in September per the rules. No applications were received. So nothing happened in October. We just received, as Mo shared with you earlier, 2 applications, which are still yet to go before the commission for approval. So essentially, we are in the second round. So for those members whose terms expire, if they so desire, I would encourage them to visit with the office, with the clerk's office,
or go online and submit the application. And those are essentially the major changes. And one other thing, I'm sorry, for applicants, especially those members who are reapplying, attendance to previous meetings during their previous term would be or could be a consideration by the commission to reappoint that member or not. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So it seems, however, a member who has served full terms, that's been struck.
Right. This language is no longer used by the office of the clerk.
So it says a member may serve 2 consecutive terms and that's.
Consecutive terms and that's it, but it doesn't say you are not to reapply.
Okay.
So that means you can apply in the first cycle.
I would venture to say yes. But I will certainly confirm that because that's still kind of nebulous, kind of cloudy out there. So I can have that question addressed and email the group.
But it says a member may serve 2 consecutive 2-year terms. To me, that says you serve 2 terms, you have to sit one out and come back.
Well, typically, right. And here's the thing. The rules also say that for those whose term have expired, until such time as your seat is filled, at your discretion, you can continue serving. And I think it's in one of the board, there's a situation where no one wants to apply and a member has been serving now for 15 years since his term expired. I think I can remember Kristen from the clerk's office told me this and I couldn't believe it. For the plan board, I think it is. I think that, don't quote me on it, but I think it was a plan board.
Isn't that a harder one to qualify for as well?
That seems like that's probably not the one.
I know one of them may have one of these qualifications.
Also, for the most part, they want folks to live within the city, within the incorporated area. Unless the board is seeking someone with specific set of qualifications and that person happens to live elsewhere, right? But those are very few and far between.
It's kind of trivial, the language is getting stricken out, but the time when we had board member has failed to attend, overall attendance record is less than 50% of the 6 most recent board meetings of which voting occurred. So that means the voting didn't occur. If they attended 100% of the meetings where voting occurred, they are at 100%. Right. Yeah.
Okay. That failed attendance, maybe why quorum didn't happen and voting didn't happen.
Right. So it's just watching things for the agenda where the voting occurred and you're okay, even though you missed ones that.
And likewise, with the absences, each member has 2 excused absences per year. And essentially to avoid the issue of not having quorum. Yes, folks will get sick. Ms. Fox is sick, she's excused. Mr. Idy notified us ahead of time, he's excused, and so on. But suffice to say, and I've mentioned this on my emails to the board, 2 excused absences per year, and that has not changed. By the way, this is the ordinance that was. I'm sorry. It's okay. One thing, and I know that I'm happy to send this to you. And I was speaking with Mr. Norquist earlier that the agenda packet that you receive, like in the past, now it doesn't show links for you to go to the backup. And the reason for that is that the new software that we're using basically attaches every backup, every presentation to the agenda. So if I was to send you that email, that attachment, it would be too large, and it wouldn't go through. So one thing that I need to do, and this one is on me, is to provide with every month, not only the agenda, but also the link on the city site for you to be able to view the agenda along with all the relevant backup. And all of this would have been attached, and I missed that one. So my apologies.
Anything else? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So we are now up to request to address the board. Anybody, is there a request to address the board? Then that means no. Business discussion. Housing program, October update.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight. My name is Chelsea Bakaitis. I am the Housing Community Development Supervisor over programs. I am providing this update just basically about the GCRA funded programs. So I'll just kind of go over these numbers. This is all the numbers from last month. Remember, last month was the start of the fiscal year. So it doesn't look like a lot has happened, but this will increase every month, I promise. All right, so the neighborhood paint, we actually did paint 3 houses in the month of October. And we are working to kind of, we have about 30 people on, they've been income qualified, but we're waiting to get our new project manager hired for this program. So they're actually going to start next week. And so we're hoping to start the next batch of houses and finish up those 30 in the next few months, probably beginning of December. So the heirs property program, we have $250,000 budgeted. We haven't spent any of that, but once the new project manager comes on, we're going to start again doing more community outreach. The property appraiser has actually contacted us, and they want us to come to the Duval Front Porch neighborhood group and present about the program, because the property appraiser has been going around to all the different neighborhood groups to talk about their different benefits that their offices provide. And so they've invited us to the Duval meeting and possibly Cedar Grove too, to talk about the heirs property assistance program, because their offices deals with a lot of people going through probate as well. The My Neighborhood program, we have a budget of $200,000 for this upcoming year. So I'll remind you, each grant is about $25,000. So that's we can offer about 8 grants. Actually, they're forgivable loans for this next year. And this doesn't include rollover. So we actually closed on 1 home last week, and we're closing a home Thursday, actually. And so the next report, you'll see $50,000 spent. Community Weatherization Coalition, they do quarterly reporting. So we'll come back with you soon on the numbers that the homes that they've been doing servicing. Historic Home Stabilization Program, that one still hasn't started. It's not live yet. We're waiting on a city request for qualifications that's going out to find contractors. And so I'm a little sad that that one has taken so long to get off the ground, but hopefully the city, that RFQ can get through soon, and we can start hiring contractors to work on that program. So October 24th and November 3rd, we had meetings in the Pleasant Street neighborhood and then the Porters community for the infill projects we're doing in those 2 communities. We had about 7 people come to the Pleasant Street meeting and about 10 people come to the Porters neighborhood meeting. Wasn't as many people as we'd hoped, but for the next 3 weeks, we put some A-frames on the sites with posters of the designs that we're proposing. And we have a survey for people to fill out. So if they walk by the site, they can take a look, kind of visualize the designs on the site and fill out that survey or contact me and Anna talk about their ideas. So we learned some very valuable, even though there was few people at the meeting, we learned some very, very valuable things. And I think it's just hard because they're site-specific projects, so it can be hard just getting people to understand, like, why does this pertain to me? This is an affordable housing project, you know? So I think I can kind of understand maybe why participation is lower, but we're hoping we can try to get as many ideas generated as we can. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So this Friday, this Thursday, we're closing for the My Neighborhood program, and that actually is a habitat home. And so the home dedication is on Thursday or Friday, I think. Do you want me to invite them to come to the dedication? So all habitat dedications are open to the public. So if anyone's interested in coming, just to kind of see or meet some of the recipients of the My Neighborhood program, I'll send that out, the invitation out to David.
The time and location right now?
Yeah, it's at 9 a.m. It's actually at the house, and the house is in the Duval community. I'll send that, remind me, I'll send that out. Let me. Oh, and the final thing I wanted to mention, if you do want to see the concept designs or kind of the visioning presentation that we presented to the Pleasant Street and Porter's community, that is on the project website. And I can have in that email, I'll have David send out those presentations so you can kind of see what's being proposed on those sites. So the next steps after that, after we get all the community engagement, we're going to be bringing it to you, the advisory board, and we're going to invite members of the public to come to this meeting if they want to comment on the final plans there. So you will see and have the opportunity to vote or make comment on the designs that we present before it goes to the city commission. All right, well, I think that was everything I wanted to cover. Is there any questions? Yes.
Well, comment first, you talked about low turnout to those meetings in Pleasant Street and Porter, food and door prizes.
So we had
People.
door prizes, a good idea. We had food, but I realized on the postcard we sent out, it said refreshments. And so I don't think people understood it was dinner. And so I think we need to say.
Now, on so many of those, it says expended 0 and remaining 0. Does that mean the money just has money in a different account until there's activity, or the city commission has yet to do the final appropriation to order the funds into those accounts?
So that's kind of embarrassing on my part. That's a typo. That's a mistake. That should have been updated to be the budget number. So
the remaining should have something there.
Yes, it should. Yes.
And Lippy's Matthews, I think you told us about that before. Is that a local law firm?
So they're based out of Jacksonville. So we had, when we send out the RFP to get attorneys, we had 3 groups apply. So 3 Rivers, Lippis Mathias, and then another firm, and I think they were based in Orlando. I don't quite remember. So,
and on the historic home stabilization, has a call already gone out to contractors, or can contractors still try to qualify to be in there?
They can still try to qualify. They haven't actually sent it out yet. I've just been waiting for the city to send this out. So they can still, if you have any contractors in mind, send them to me and we'll send them an email once that RFQ is sent out, that let them know it's in Demand Star and they can get their qualifications together.
You all have Rolodex, so to speak, of contractors that you've used in the past that you always solicit automatically?
So we haven't, this program's never actually, it's never been implemented yet, but for the home rehabilitation program, we do requests for quotes. So we don't really have a list of vendors that we use every time. It's whoever responds to the quotes. And so the new system that we're considering is, which is what the city is doing, creating a list of qualified vendors that we would pull from. And so we're kind of transitioning to a different system of how we do it.
Well, not necessarily a list that you would pull from, but a list that you would send or notify that this is forthcoming. Not that you pick and choose from the list, but an entire list of general contractors that you can always solicit. You don't have that?
Yes, we do. So we have a list of contractors that other departments have done work with, that even the paint contractors, some people who, so yeah, we have that list and we send that out. And so that's, if you know of any, especially local vendors, we would really appreciate, they can get on that list. So,
Chelsea,
yes.
to help answer the question, Member Brown, all of our solicitations go through procurement. And so they're the ones that handle the list that you're speaking of. Also, they work with the Office of Equity and Inclusion and make sure that everyone is communicated with on how to become a vendor with the city, how to get on DemandStar, and they do community outreach with it as well. But if anyone at any time wants to do business in any area, it doesn't have to be this particular contract. We work with the procurement office. We can put you or whoever in touch with that department, and they're the one that leads making sure that that information gets out. DemandStar is who we use at this moment, and then they're also constantly working with Equity and Inclusion, actually actively right now, looking at all of our processes and procedures of those lists and how to be better. And so I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And then I should clarify also on the question about our vendors for heirs property. So Three Rivers is our primary vendor. If there is a conflict of interest with an applicant and Three Rivers cannot see them, then we give them to Lippis Mathias. So Three Rivers is really doing the bulk of the heirs property cases.
So I just need to. The only thing that I remember us as originally CRA originating was a neighborhood paint program. All the rest of them are city, or did we originate any of these others? Or are these coming from the city?
So these, let me think. These all originated from the GCRA and then they were moved. Yeah, so we did all of them. The My Neighborhood program and the heirs property program was a special request from the city commission. So I don't know if that kind of clarifies what you're asking for.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm just kind of fuzzy on some of that, so that's helping me understand in terms of our history, what we originated and what actually the city brought in.
Yes.
So with
And I can tell you the history on the other ones too, if you want, but go on.
So with the ones that we are actually originating, those are the ones that we are financing from our, but city isn't.
So we're actually financing all of these, even the ones that came from the city commission. So, yes.
City assistance on the one that the city requested?
No.
To help answer that question as well, in the 10-year work plan that was provided, and we did all the engagement around there, it does specifically call out for our work to do this. So I would say that there were two items. I believe it was the neighborhood paint program was revised as a CRA. So it was something we already had, we just improved upon it. The My Neighborhood and the heirs were identified as opportunities. So it wasn't just commissioner driven or city driven or anything like that. It was something that was called out in our 10-year work plan to come up with something to help neighborhoods within our district. So by all means, I would say that the errors especially was something that was identified in that program as a major need, and that it would complement other programs that housing already had. And remember, we are the city now as a department. And so it's kind of hard, even for us sometimes to think like, this is how it was handled as the CRA. This was the technical plan. And 2 of these programs were identified as opportunities that really could serve and have done quite well. I wish we had the year-end snapshot, to go back between, like how much we have impacted with errors in my neighborhood. But yes, there were commissioners that did give feedback specifically for those to be implemented. Also, and Chelsea can give much more information on this, but there is other programs that have been successful in other states, I believe, or maybe in Florida, that were similar to these 2. So we didn't go and completely reinvent the wheel. There were research behind some of those programs. So I would say pellet plants was something that was identified. The Community Weather Coalition was something that we could support and leverage. And then Pleasant and the affordable housing infill projects were designated in our 10-year work plan. So the only 2 that we would specifically be speaking to would be Ayers and my neighborhood. How did you, Chelsea?
Yeah, exactly.
When she was speaking to the commissioner, what I forgot the word she used, but recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the feedback, I think they're wonderful and, it's addressing the dire need in terms of housing shortage. With the conflation of what I remember the CRA being as independent and what we're involved in now, sometimes I'm just wondering how this partnership works in terms of financing and resources. So sometimes I'm just trying to take a look at that. So I think it's
And I'm hoping you're spot on to similar questions that we're hearing, and actively we're working on that sort of how can we answer this in an easier way, a more concise way, something that's a little bit more effective and efficient on all of our programs and all of our financing. So wish us luck, because that's what we're trying to do and bring forward. Because these are similar questions that the community has, that our board has, that the commission has, both the city and the county. And so actively and collectively, we've been thinking through that, because we have 6 years left to get a lot of work done and really help identifying the little nuances, and they're positive, from the CRA model, the traditional CRA model, and how we are operating and moving things forward as a city department. And I think I love the way your mind thinks, I definitely can see where you're like, how is this and how does this work? So hopefully you'll get those answers, or at least you'll be a part of that conversation. And it's an active role that we're trying to do. You'll actually be able to sit with all of us and have those conversations. Yeah.
You can find all of these programs on your website, right? So you can look at what the criteria are, the qualifications are, et cetera.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to add one more thing. So it's really been kind of a good being able to combine the existing city housing programs like the rehab program and down payment assistance with these programs. So for instance, we have 2 people who are qualified for a roof replacement program that we'll be beginning work on soon. And they were heirs property, and they went through the heirs property program. So they wouldn't have been able to get that roof replacement if they weren't able to find services through the heirs property program. And so it's been good to kind of see the like some of these programs be able to leapfrog and like help people even more. And so people who are doing the down payment assistance program, the SHIP program, are also doing the My Neighborhood. So it's been good.
I have a question about the meetings that you had. How the people that did attend, what were their comments? What were their feelings? Were they positive, negative, concerns? What was the flavor?
It was, so the Pleasant Street one, we had a wide variety of opinions. So many people at the Pleasant Street, we really weren't exactly sure when going into it, were we building for retired folks? Were we building for families? But really the consensus at that meeting was people wanted to see kids in Pleasant Street. And so some of the units we were proposing might be too small, like at 750 square feet was the smallest unit. And so, I mean, that we put that in there as part of the design in case there was a desire to have seniors living in some of the units, or like mix maybe families with seniors, but there really was just a desire for families. So we're going to go back to the drawing board and try to make the units more for families. And so that would mean less units because it'll be larger, but it'll be more what the community wants. So, and then the porters, overall, they were pretty positive for the designs we presented. I'm trying to remember what they were more concerned about how will we be able to keep these affordable? So they had a lot of questions about the affordability. We presented 3 different affordability models. And you can see them in the presentation. We have more information about that. So they were very concerned about that. And then also at the meetings we had last year's in Porters, they had identified initially was just going to be housing, but they identified they wanted some community space or commercial space. And so that's what we brought, and they like that. But there was just some small, I can't think of exactly specifics, but there was some small tweaks from the Porters we took away too. So, but.
Another question on your boards that you have where you can take the survey. Do you have a QR code where they can just go with a phone and just get the survey, or how do you find the survey, I guess? Yeah.
So on the site, there's a QR code they can scan, or they can call my phone number and I will get them a paper survey. We decided against having paper surveys on site because it was a little difficult to figure out like getting a lockbox or how we were going to figure that out. So they can contact me on that. So, yeah. So.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Chelsea.
All right. Thank you for your time.
So now we're up to the Heartwood update.
Chelsea, we just identified that she could send the board some additional information so that if anyone here would like to take a look at the survey or of the survey as well.
Hi, everybody. Trisha Lopez, GCRA staff. So I'm bringing another Heartwood update. This is an aerial taken by Daniel Blumberg, who's been flying his drone out every couple of weeks, getting footage, posting it on YouTube, and we're sharing that with the home buyers, occasionally when the new video is released. But we're still making progress. So today I'll share an update on the sales and construction for both the Dreams to Reality and the Showcase homes, and then next steps into 2023. So construction status, we had our first closing yesterday. So super excited. We will have the one-man neighborhood watch. He'll be moving in this weekend. This is him up there. So that's lot 1. I'm very excited. Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. Wow. So anyway, the photos here show you get to see the different options that the buyers have for flooring, cabinets, wall color. So we're starting to see things like the neighborhood coming out. But one of my favorite things is this picture on the top left corner. This is 2 river birches that are right next to each other. They're a mirror image. And at first, when the frames went up, I'm like, oh, we have 2 houses like right next to each other. But they have completely different color schemes and they actually look really nice next to each other. So let's see. Okay, so we talked about lot one. We have two more closings in December. We have one on December 9th, one on December 19th. We're shooting for. And then we plan on having a handful in January, and then the last ones will come in February. So for the construction contracts, as I had mentioned last time I was here, there is a separate construction contract for each home. We're doing the cost plus model, so we won't know the final cost to build the home until the contractor receives his final invoice. We were planning on bringing those numbers to you before putting them in, like to amend the PO, but timing wise now it's going to be a little tricky because for lot one, I'm expecting to get those final numbers this week. And then I'm hoping to get them in through procurement so we can get the builder paid. He's expecting the cost to be, he said about 20% over the proposed cost. So we're looking at kind of a substantial amount, but we won't know the final numbers until he gets his last receipt. And this is really building a neighborhood, starting this during COVID really changed the way that the project was originally envisioned. But we have contracts with buyers, and we will find the money and make sure that their sales price will stay the same. The CRA is absorbing that extra cost, but we do need to make sure that we're following through with those who are under contract. So the home buyers, there's nothing for them to worry about. It's just a matter of us getting more funds. So on October 18th, we had a construction celebration. Thank you for those who were able to make it. It was a weekday morning, but it was a lovely day. About half of the homeowners were there. They brought their families and their realtors, and some already knew each other, were walking around in groups and going to each other's homes, and then others got to meet each other. So it was a really nice event. The county commissioner was there. We had city leadership, and everyone signed a beam that was placed inside lot 9, and the home buyer was there, and he was pleased with it. So it was a really nice event. Okay, so for showcase sales status, this is the same map that we show every time. The difference between the last time you saw it was we did have a showcase buyer fall through. They had executed a purchase and sales agreement, but they hadn't gotten to a construction contract, but they ended up not being able to obtain a loan. So they fell through, and that means that there is one more lot available. And that leaves three showcase lots that are under contract. Those homes are about to start construction either by the end of the year or early January, depending on permitting. They're all in permitting. And that leaves 16 lots available. Okay, and so for showcase construction status, we have the 3 showcase homes that are in permitting, and then we also have the 2 city-funded showcase homes. Those are the 2 homes that we're building, and then we're selling them once they're finished. So those 5 homes will basically be phase 2, Heartwood phase 2, and they'll all start around the same time. Okay, October 22nd, we had a sales event, open house on a Saturday. We had door prizes, we had food, and we had a decent turnout. It wasn't super crowded. It was the one weekend that was not a game day. And, there was a lot of competition, but we felt like the folks who did turn out, they all seemed very interested. Still have, hoping to get some more contracts coming through, but it was a nice event. We had Tony Dilla's food truck, and then we had an ice cream truck. So for next steps, this is the timeline from now until February of 2023. So I already said when the closings will be. We also, so we have gotten direction from leadership to look at incorporating a fence into the front of the neighborhood and also around the edges. We were originally going to take what's there out. The fence that's there now is probably going to be really expensive to repair. So we're looking at ways to add, take that out, scrap it, add a new fence and incorporate that with the landscaping, just to put a barrier between Southeast 8th Ave and those houses along the top. So that's something that we're working on. And then we also have the new home model design for lot 5, and that is in the process. And once we have some drawings, we'll share those with you. And lot 5 is the lot that has the large live oak that we're trying to save. So those are the other, other small pieces, but we're hoping the last Dreams to Reality homes, they should all be done by February at the latest. And that's all I have for today.
Congratulations. All right, so we're up to public comment. Is there any public comment? Hearing none.
Anyone?
Oh, is there anybody online? That's a good point. Anybody, any public member, anybody from the public online? Yeah, very good.
Are there any board member comments? Well, maybe that's. Is it just open? Board member comment? Questions?
I want to point out to everybody that tomorrow at City Hall is the much awaited meeting about the police K-9 unit. I would urge everyone interested to attend, participate in that. Something else, somebody else give theirs while I try to remember anything else.
I just have a question. When are we gonna hear from the from Eric and their team about Ethan Waldo?
I can give you an update on Ethan Waldo. I can also reach out to Eric and their team as well to come back to the board. So just, I believe it's this Thursday. Right now, Ethan Waldo is under the cone of silence and it is going to commission it as an agenda item on Thursday, awarding the feasibility study. And so that is on the agenda. And so if approved with that particular vendor, then we will begin the feasibility study around Ethan Waldo. So I don't know exactly what Eric or they've been really working on the downtown strategic plan, which they get approved. So hopefully some of you have received or seen a copy, or we can get a copy of the approved strategic plan to you if you would like. And then I can have them, they right now have been working more towards the downtown strategic plan, and Ethan Waldo will be entering the feasibility study if approved by the commission on Thursday.
The feasibility study approved, what is that about?
I don't have it in front of me, but the feasibility study typically takes 8 to 12 months. I can't remember the awarded contract and what their proposed timeline would be. But if approved, we can easily, and I'll make sure to make a note of that, come back and give you the timeline on that.
Okay. Reports to you.
And please remember, parts of those studies would be the traffic analysis and engineering that goes with what we would bring there. So definitely look at the backup if you would like on Thursday's agenda, because there's all the information in there that kind of outlines why that timeline is projected to be, and I can't remember the date, but I typically they're between 8 and 12 months, but it's pretty fast.
And also, how is Cornerstone?
So Cornerstone is exciting because, and I do think we'll be bringing this back. I keep speaking on what we're working on, kind of like 2023, you know, let's get it out there. Let's have these conversations. But when we talk about the Eastside Health and Economic Development Initiative, and we started talking about, on Hawthorne Road, there's the UF property. And then right next to that is the purchase, the land acquisition for the White Electric battery property that we did. I believe they're in the due diligence phases. I don't know if it's closed yet, but it's in the due diligence phases. So acquiring that property, we already owned, for lack of better words, phase 2 Cornerstone G-Tech property that was right next to it. And then G-Tech Cornerstone is right here. So the conversation is going to be, we have partnered with the master planning with CHW. We've already identified CHW for their master planning, so we're working together. And so if you can think all the way from G-Tech, all the way to UF, the connectivity, and there's conversations around the UF property all the way to G-Tech being sort of cornerstone and all of that being connected. And so I think when we bring things forward in 23, you'll be able to kind of see what that connectivity would look like, the roadways that would potentially connect it. And once we get back, I believe we're in phase 2 of the environmental and the wetland study. So what goes on there will be a really fun conversation once we get those reports back. So what I call the plug and play in that master planning, what will be on that site. So when we think Cornerstone and the lots that are already infrastructure ready, I think it's this transformational project in Eastside really becomes looking at everything, including those lots as Cornerstone, and the conversations around what are we attracting businesses to potentially build, or is something, once we identify what can go on this master plan, there might be some opportunities and it's already infrastructure ready. So I think once we get that analysis back, once we understand the wetlands, then that's what I call plug and play. We can sit down and go, what makes sense? But there is going to be the Cornerstone, and we do have a COA attached to that. So that will definitely be a part of it, and that is in our 10-year work plan. A condo association, we already have a condo association with Cornerstone. Also, identifying the scope around the food component of it, the mobility hub, the transfer station. But those 2 reports will really kind of tell us what we can do at that time. So when I think of Cornerstone now, I'm sort of seeing it more as a bigger umbrella of the Eastside Health and Economic Development Initiative, or EHEDI as we've coined it. And Cornerstone becomes a very large portion of that in that conversation. Whereas Cornerstone as a CRA was really thinking of the land around GTech. Right. So it's kind of broadened.
That's good. I think I question whether or not the connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods have been explored as much as UF. UF is always kind of like a obvious and sought after target, but what about connections to Duval? What about connections to Lincoln Estates? What about connections to these big neighborhoods that we're trying to give them access to these things, these services, and the things that we're trying to develop an upward mobility to be able to afford the things that on the other side we're trying to make affordable. It's also about the income. So
I would like to say that you have already owned the land and had this sort of in the works. This was just identifying a new transformational opportunity where GTech was and how we can bring jobs, because this was already going to be there. And so, transportation, food, jobs, potentially, and I don't want to make promises because we need these reports, but potentially some density in housing. And so I like to envision it as, when I think of Hawthorne Road and I think of 8th and Waldo, these are potentially 2 very big transformational projects that are bookends, and the goal is as much as we can, that is thoughtful to the neighborhoods, but also thoughtful to creating jobs, creating home density. I think these will be very transformational. And the positive news, having something with the Eastside Health and Economic Development Initiative kind of shake hands with the UF property, that they would have done something already, and the momentum that is happening right now and how quickly, you know, even bringing all this information to you all, making sure that we at least talk about it because it's happening so quickly. So hopefully, as we keep them informed and as we get those wetlands and sort of what can be placed there, that's where we start bringing everything back to the board and having those conversations in the master planning. And I think the momentum is there to see something great. So we're very excited. Hopefully you will be very excited. We know we've given you the land acquisition and we've given you that UF's going to be there, but you know, GTech is a big piece of that. You know, the commission approved, you know, what I call a refresh of potentially the interior, the exterior, supporting small, local and diverse businesses, rethinking programming now that the EDA grant is up. And so that will be in the middle of this very big transformational piece.
I'm just concerned because a lot of times you build big things and, you know, is that for me? Can I approach it? Can I interact with these people here and feel like I'm gonna be comfortable or respected and treated as a human being and get the information I need and not be made to feel undermined or stupid or something, you know, and so that's why I'm asking about these kind of obvious connections, like you could avoid what can come on, you know. Things like that are kind of structural, but this is my last question, I promise. But remember when we had the people that were building the hotel downtown, and they told us that they were committed to employing people from this side of town? I want to follow up on that.
I have a question. Is there any way that codes enforcement and or waste management could be brought in to these conversations regarding not so much home ownership, because we have that covered, not so much property maintenance in terms of the structure itself, but community, neighbor, aesthetics, just elements regarding being a good neighbor. And I bring this to you guys because I know a part of land development also encompasses people desiring to live in a particular neighborhood. But if the properties are not kept, if dilapidated cars are scattered about, if trash is everywhere, is there any way that some type of teaching or training as a part of the home buying courses that we do? And that I have taught before. And I don't believe that is an element of it. And I'm wondering if that could be included in our home buying courses that are offered through the city, through NHDC, whomever they may be, Habitat, et cetera, informing, advising, educating new tenants, new homeowners as to what the do's and don'ts are in regards to being a good neighbor, being a good community, you know, citizen. Elements, is that possible?
As we speak to the course offerings that are offered by Housing and Community I think we're always looking for ways to improve our delivery. As far as making sure that the content is relevant, making sure it's easy to digest. As I'm sure you're well aware, there's a lot of information that's presented at those courses. And so that's something that we can definitely look at and try to incorporate those type of, being a good neighbor, making sure that you're protecting your asset, your investment, things of that nature. We can definitely, talk through those things with, those participants. But again, how do we squeeze that into an already intense kind of day? That would be something that we would definitely need to take a deeper look at.
Just a brochure, a flyer, or something that was just noted and mentioned. And I bring this to you because I have encountered in the recent past, they're tenants, but they come out of an apartment complex. So all they know is the apartment life. They're now renting a home. And simple things such as keeping the yard. They had no idea about yellow trash bags, that were required for your extra overflow debris. No knowledge. They pull them apart in the grass directly in front of the front door, as opposed to on the driveway or on the carport or in the garage, whatever the case may be. So I think it's just an extreme lack of information, possibly. Just don't know. Just never had the experience of living in a single family home because they've always, just lived in multi-family or apartment complex type situations, so. But I see a lot of it. I see a lot of it. And I think if that could be addressed, I think that would help further along the desirability for residents to want to relocate into some of the other communities other than West Gainesville.
I do want to add, so for home rehabilitation applicants, they have to go through a class. It's usually an hour to 2 hours, but the class is about maintaining your home, and it talks about maintaining your home. But a big part of that is talking about being a good neighbor, clearing out trash and that type of thing. But I think that's something we probably could.
I think it would bring it really full circle. Instead of us being 3/4 around, I think that just kind of closes the gap. That's what I envision, I don't.
It may take some homeowner because we're talking about tenants, but it may take some landlord education as well. Encouraging, encouraging them to make sure that it's clearly defined, kind of the code of ethics or the code of within a rentals agreement. And so that's another layer of education that probably should be provided.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
And Corey, Chelsea and I were just thinking, with code enforcement, I bet you we have the asset and Andrew, finding out what are common infractions and maybe highlighting what that is so that people know as a part of it. So
again, I'm just, as opposed to trying to rewrite the entire curriculum and print an entirely new book, if that could be provided somehow, the pamphlet, a trifold, important for you to read, go over it in the class to make sure they grasp the most important components of it, and then read the rest at a later date. But yeah.
I remember other things. Well, first of all, the comment, I don't know how y'all managed to cover that in an hour or two. I mean, when I worked for NHDC, and that was in the Hercolo days. The first time home buyer class was a series. We held people in class for hours and hours. So
These are two different. I'm sorry. I should clarify. The one that's an hour and a half, that's just for people who already own a home, and it's about maintaining your home. If they're going through rehab, our home buyer education.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's. Now, somewhere in the housing programs, there was a mention about model block. Is that those same 2 blocks of Fourth Avenue, east and west of Sixth Street that have been model block target for forever, for a long time?
So the model block home program was under the CRA, and there were 2 over in near Fifth Avenue and Pleasant Street. The model block that is identified in our 10-year work plan, the 2 infill housings that we're doing right now and having community engagement rounds, which is Porters and Fifth Avenue, Pleasant Street. So think of model block as the overarching umbrella, but the 2 specific programs, or not programs, we're just talking about programs. The 2 particular projects would be Fifth Avenue, Pleasant Street, and Porters at this time. That infill housing.
I've been attending an activity in downtown Gainesville just recently that has felt so wonderful. I mean, I feel younger. Monday mornings at 10 and Tuesday and Thursday evenings at 7. There are fantastic yoga teachers coming to the downtown plaza. It's free. Donations are accepted, but it's free. These are skillful, attentive teachers. They're licensed, insured. It's under the city's umbrella, but I don't think it's advertising them. And maybe this is something to visit Gainesville, but if I were a guest in that Hyatt or that Hampton, I would love to know that I could go right over there for free yoga while I'm visiting Gainesville. It seems like that's something that should really be hyped. To me, that's quite an amenity in our downtown. And last thing is to invite all of you Friday to Cypress and Grove for Jazz Bandits performance. And I'll be in Montgomery, Alabama, so there'll be a substitute singer, but they'll still give you a good performance. It's free, but there's a food truck there usually.
I'll be in Nashville, Tennessee. Looking close.
Oh, okay.
All right. I just have one thing that I like to say. So you talked about the downtown strategic plan and how that's been approved now. They did have a workshop, and thank you, David, for circulating the information about the workshop. I attended the 2 workshops that they had. So they had the consultant, MKSK, is that who they are? Okay. They were there, Sarit and Eric, of course, participated, and very well attended. And we were talking about the second day was about the Greenway project, the Sweetwater Branch Greenway project. So there was a lot of discussion about that, trying to get ideas. There were people that had, businesses in downtown, restaurants and things like that were represented there. Really some great discussion about all of that. And then also about just general, I can't remember what they call it, streetscaping for better, in that area that they've got closed off right now, where Lucy's is and all that. There was discussion about what that could look like. And Anthony Lyons was there, obviously representing A&J, because they own that property there and they'll develop that. They seem to be on board with, whatever the direction of the community is related to all of that space. And there's some specific things that are being recommended right now. So stay tuned to that. And and the other thing that they did, I don't know if you remember, but when we got the presentation on the downtown strategic plan, one of the things that we talked about was to have a management organization for downtown. And so they actually went and had interviews with, I think there were 4 other cities. And I won't be able to name them. I know Louisville was one, Miami-Dade County was a home, which was big. There was there's another couple of cities that I can't recall them off the top of my head right now. But they basically had the opportunity to interview those management organizations and what's working for them and what are the big concerns, I think, things like that. What really came out of the discussion for me, and I think for everybody that was involved, was that safety and cleanliness is like the first job of those management organizations. So keep them, and they had all of them had kind of an ambassador program. There were people out on the streets, they had a certain attire, and they were there to answer questions related to somebody being there, but safety and cleanliness, that's like job one. If people don't feel safe, they're not gonna come. So it was really, it was a good step forward. You know, there's a lot more to be done, and I don't know when we are gonna get any kind of a presentation or update related to that, but I think that it would be interesting at some point if we like to kind of get an update on all of those issues.
I would like to add, and thank you for bringing that up, December 1st is when the two items, everything from the workshop would be brought back to commission. And so one would be around sort of that downtown management plan, also, I believe the streetery piece of it, and then also what came out of the workshop. So it's an update back to the commission, and I believe the date was December 1st. And so I can also, you know, as you give us feedback, I take notes, and we can reach out and have them potentially bring that, you know, back to the board as well.
I mean, if there's any action related to, you know, if it's just for informational purpose, or if there's something that the COA can do.
At this moment, I think it would be informational. So if you would like more details with information, I can have them come back, or when it becomes actionable, we'll be bringing that as well.
Informational is always good to try to have some direction and give some feedback. And then, you know, when the action comes, you don't have to. All right, anybody else? Any additional comments?
Did you want to discuss?
You have the meeting date, right?
Yeah, that's the only
That's
question.
all we're up to. So the next meeting date, you said, it's currently scheduled for December the 20th.
Correct.
And I'm in favor of moving that date. So I don't know about anybody else. So what's typically done? You said that sometimes the meeting is canceled.
We have seen members cancel the meeting in December and bring back, you know, something more robust in January. Or we could send out a doodle poll and look for a date meeting up to, you know, a potential Tuesday, or another date leading up to the 20th in December. But we would be meeting. Yeah, so it would be a couple weeks or a more robust January.
Do you know of any pressing voting items expected on the December agenda?
Not at this time.
Slide till January.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with that. If there's no action to be taken, I would say there's a reason to have a meeting in this time. Agree with that.
So I hear cancel the December meeting and actionable, more robust in January.
So it sounds like something we need to talk in there.
Thank you.
So with that, there's no objection, I call the meeting adjourned.